Imagine this. You've got a newlywed couple, Raja, he's 29, and Sonam Raghuvanshi, 25. They just got married May 11th, 2025. And like less than 2 weeks later, they're off on their honeymoon. Beautiful place, Meghalaya, really serene landscapes, specifically Cherrapunji. They get there on May 22nd, check into a homestay in Nongria. It sounds pretty perfect, right? But here's where it just takes a completely dark turn. Within days, May 23rd, they both disappear, vanished. Then June 2nd, the really tragic news. Raj's body is found in a gorge below Waisadong Falls. His phone, his belongings found nearby. So it starts as this, romantic getaway, just plunges into this deep, dark mystery. And now there are these accusations swirling that have just gripped everyone. Okay, let's unpack this. A honeymoon, a remote waterfall, and then accusations that turn a romantic trip into something far more sinister. Our mission really in this deep dive is to unpack all these layers, look at the evidence, understand these accusations, and maybe see how fast an investigation can, peel back the curtain on a story we thought we knew.
And what's fascinating here right from the start is how quickly the investigation seemed to put together a really complex narrative. The circumstances were just so unusual, it hinted pretty early on this wasn't just a straightforward disappearance.
That's a really key point. It suggests the police weren't starting from scratch. So let's just walk through that timeline again. Married May 11th in Indore, a new beginning. Travel to Meghalaya, get there around May 20th, head to Cherrapunji, and then that non-Griat homestay by the 22nd, and literally the next day, May 21st, they're gone. Then June 2nd, Raj's body found beneath Waisadong Falls, personal items close by. From your perspective, when you have a sudden disappearance that turns into a discovery like this, so fast, in such a remote place, what are the first things investigators are thinking?
Well, the absolute first priority is securing that scene.
Right.
Properly. Then identifying the deceased, obviously, and starting to build a preliminary timeline.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you have a sudden vanishing act followed by finding a body in a location like that, a gorge, difficult terrain, it immediately signals, okay, this is complex. And if we connect this to the sort of the bigger picture that emerged later, the sheer number of people eventually accused, the alleged conspirators, and how quickly they were apprehended, it suggests either some really significant early intelligence or maybe a key witness deciding to talk very early on.
Yeah.
That's often crucial in breaking open these kinds of networked crime.
Right, a break in the news.
Exactly. And that big turning point seems to have been June 9th. That's when Sonam herself surrendered. Just walked into a roadside eatery in Ghazipur, Uttar Pradesh, and gave herself up to the police. She was arrested pretty much immediately on suspicion of, orchestrating her husband's murder.
Wow. Surrendered herself.
Yeah. And that's really just the start of it. The accusation is that Sonam hired her alleged lover, a man named Raj Kushwaha. He then reportedly enlisted 3 contract killers, Akash Rajput, Vishal Singh Chauhan, and Anand Kurmi. But the web, it seems, goes even wider. Several others were arrested later for allegedly helping to cover things up, dispose of evidence. We're talking a contractor, Shalom James, a security guard, Balbir Ahirwar, even a flat landlord, Lokendra Tomar, back in Indore.
So going back to the complexity you mentioned, dealing with a crime that potentially spans multiple states like this, Uttar Pradesh, Meghalaya, Madhya Pradesh, what are the immediate hurdles for law enforcement?
Oh, jurisdiction, coordination, sharing evidence seamlessly. It adds layers of difficulty. You need warrants, transit remands.
Right, which we'll get to. Because once Sonam was arrested, it seems like the pieces, the physical evidence, the alleged confessions, they started falling into place. You mentioned she reportedly admitted to a personal relationship with this Raj Kushwaha and apparently confessed to preparing multiple murder plans, even getting a pistol involved. And there's a stark financial element, too. She's accused of paying the assassins a total of 20 lakh, just so everyone understands. That's a significant amount of money, roughly 24,000 US dollars. And part of that, an initial 15,000 was allegedly taken straight from Raj's wallet right there during the crime. What's the significance of that detail, the immediate payment at the scene?
Well, it can suggest a couple of things. Premeditation, obviously, but also that transactional nature of the crime. Very cold. It potentially provides a very direct, tangible link between the person accused of planning it and the people accused of carrying it out, right there at the point of attack. And the physical evidence seems to be lining up with some of these claims. You said investigators recovered a pistol?
Yeah, pistol, ammo, magazines.
Right. Plus a laptop, jewelry, a mobile phone. Yeah. And this laptop bag that's going to be key for forensics, and perhaps most damningly, Sonam's raincoat, reportedly stained with blood. All incredibly critical items. Forensics, digital data recovery from the devices, that's all going to be huge. And then you have the autopsy on Raja. 2 severe head wounds from a sharp object. That solidifies the homicide charge, removes any doubt about, say, an accidental fall.
Okay, so you've got confessions, alleged confessions, financial trails, physical evidence like the raincoat, the weapon, the autopsy results. This all gets gathered, analyzed, and then it moves into the formal legal system. What happens next for the accused? How does this evidence get used?
Right, so the legal gears start turning. On June 21st, after their initial police custody ended, both Sonam and Raj Kushwaha were remanded to judicial custody in Shillong for 13 days. That basically means the court is holding them now while the investigation continues and prepares for trial. They're not with the police for day-to-day questioning anymore. And those other accused, the ones arrested in Indore, for allegedly covering up the contractor, the guard, the landlord, they received what's called transit remand.
Ah, so that's how they move them between states.
Exactly. It's the legal order allowing Meghalaya police to bring them from Indore to Shillong for further questioning. It gets all the main players into the same jurisdiction, which is crucial for the next phase.
Makes sense. But then you layer on top of this the alleged motive in these incredibly dramatic, conflicting family stories. It just adds another level of complexity, doesn't it? It raises real questions about truth versus perception. The investigation seems to be pointing towards Sonam's alleged relationship with Raj Kushwaha as the core reason, the motive for wanting Raja gone. But then you hear from Raja's parents, and their claims are incredibly serious. They're alleging Sonam was involved in tantric rituals, even planned a human sacrifice.
Yes, those are very severe allegations they've made publicly.
Suggesting this deep-seated malice, something far beyond just an affair. They're pushing for the death penalty, demanding a CBI probe that's India's central investigative agency, like the FBI.
A very strong reaction, understandably given their grief, but also very specific accusations.
But then, on the complete other side, you have Sonam's father. He's defending her fiercely. He claims the police have essentially fabricated this whole story against her, and he's also pushing for a central investigation, maybe believing it will clear her name.
Right, two families, two completely opposing narratives, both wanting a higher authority, the CBI, to take over.
From an investigator's point of view, how do you navigate that? These wildly different stories from people so close to the situation, emotions running sky high.
It's incredibly challenging. This kind of stark divergence isn't actually that uncommon in really high-profile, high-stakes cases. Grief, trauma, loyalty, pre-existing biases, they can all heavily influence how people perceive events and construct their truth. For investigators, the key is meticulousness. You have to sift through every claim, every accusation, and always tie it back to the concrete evidence. Physical proof, forensic data, corroborated witness statements, it has to be the bedrock, not just emotional testimony, however compelling it might sound. You have to remain impartial, which is tough under that kind of pressure. It definitely complicates the legal path forward and puts huge pressure on the prosecution to build an absolutely watertight case.
So it sounds like even though some initial pieces seem clear, the road ahead is still pretty long and complicated.
Definitely. So while the initial details we've covered in this deep dive seem fairly established by the investigation so far, uncovering the full picture and ensuring justice is served, that's still unfolding. We can expect more interrogations in Shillong, likely involving everyone who's been arrested, trying to pin down the exact details of the alleged planning and Sonam's role. And those key forensic reports are still pending. The burp bag, the weapon analysis, the blood on the raincoat, what's on those digital devices, those could be game changers. The demand for a CBI probe. It's out there from both sides. Whether it gains traction, whether the authorities decide it's necessary, remains to be seen. And then, of course, the courts. Bail hearings, the formal filing of charges, likely conspiracy, murder, maybe evidence tampering, setting trial schedules. That's the long process ahead.
Okay, so let's bring it back. What does this all mean for you, listening to this? This case, it's more than just a horrible, tragic incident. It really is a stark reminder, isn't it, of how quickly an investigation can just peel back the layers of a story you thought was simple. It makes you wonder, really, how much of what we think we know about people, or even about how straightforward a crime might seem, how much is actually hidden just beneath the surface? Especially when you mix in human motives, the logistical challenges of cross-state investigations, and these deeply conflicting personal stories. It really shows how truth, in cases like this, has to be pieced together so carefully, bit by painstaking bit.